Hey guys,
How are you doing?
Hey Joe, how you doing?
what's up?
We are good.
Nice, very good,
Here
very good.
is
Nice meeting you.
Thales from. Thales is in Miami now, but he
Yeah,
lived in
I,
Charlotte a few years
I
ago.
yeah, I used to live in Charlotte. I went to school in South Carolina, so I lived in Charlotte for a while. But I just moved down to Miami about 6 months ago. So
Where'd you go to school?
South Carolina,
University of?
yeah, Gamecocks.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
lived in Columbia for like 9 years.
nice,
It's a good
nice.
spot.
Actually, yeah, I was I had a house of some. I played soccer, so I had a house of some of my flatmates in Lexington.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah,
Well, sorry
yeah,
I'm late jumping on, guys. I had some breaking news I had to deal with.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's okay.
it's okay,
No
Joe.
problem,
It's
no
okay.
problem.
Yeah.
I hope it's Christian coming back for Sunday.
No, it's another injury. Shaq.
Oh,
How long is he out for?
Just sounds like a couple games, not too bad.
Is it going to IR?
He's gonna avoid IR, I think.
Okay, well, that's good.
Not so
that's
bad
good.
news.
Yeah, and here's Ronaldo. He was an exchange student for UNC Charlotte. Ronaldo.
Yes, yeah, UNC Charlotte.
All
Yeah,
right.
I lived there. I studied at UNC Charlotte for 1 year, 2015.
How did you like it?
Yeah, the best year in Panthers history. I was there. I really enjoyed. I really
Very
enjoyed.
good.
Was really good, great time. I studied civil engineering, so like that's when I started loving football and cheering for the Panthers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and here's Thiago. That's the youngest guy in the room.
Hey,
What's up, Joe? Like
Shago.
I'm from Brasilia. Here is the capital of Brazil, and like I'm really the youngest here because I started to cheer for the Panthers in 2014 because of Madden. So like I was playing the video game, so I started a franchise career with the Panthers. So I fell in love, and then I started to watch the games, and it was the playoff season that we lost against the Seattle Seahawks
Yes.
in the Central Link Field. So since then, I'm a diehard Panthers fan.
Very good. Very good.
And I'm the host here. I'm Guilherme from São Paulo. That's the financial capital of Brazil. And I started rooting for the Panthers in Super Bowl 38. My dad is a diehard Niners fan, and I started in the opposite way. And a couple of games, there's a rivalry here in my home.
So you're the oldest guy in this group?
I found the Panthers Brazil, and I see Thales. It's older than me, but I'm the founder.
Nice. Nice.
And Joe, I see you. If you can tell something about your career, uh, for people who know you better here in Brazil, because you are very important. We retweet you a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah,
we
I
follow you.
they follow me. Well, thank you
Yeah.
guys. Well, I got to Charlotte in 2010, and that was a terrible season because John Fox was a lame duck, and Jimmy Clausen was the quarterback, and Matt Moore got hurt, and they won 2 games. So that was a tough year to join the beat. But they, and of course, because of that 2-14 season, they were able to draft Cam Newton the next year, and then the beat became much more interesting. Lots of color, very colorful, and so I've been here since 2010. I'm the old guy on this chat.
And you are from William and Mary, right? You are a Joe Brady, Joe Brady friend, right?
Yeah, you know what? I actually played football with Mike Tomlin, the Steelers coach. I'm a year or 2 years older than Mike. And then Sean McDermott came to William and Mary. We just missed each other. I remember McDermott on his recruiting trip to William and Mary. So, and now Joe Brady. Joe Brady was not. I don't remember his recruiting trip. I was much older at that time.
That's great. That's great. Joe, we have a question from a follower to you. That's what was the funniest moment you witnessed while covering the Panthers?
Oh, well, had to be that Super Bowl season, like you guys were talking about. I wrote last week when the Panthers went down to Dallas, I got a hold of some of their older players who were in that Thanksgiving Day game. That was a pretty memorable game. The game, I think it was week 6 in 2015 when they went to Seattle and they finally beat the Seahawks. That was pretty amazing. Like, take your pick. There were so many. The day up at the Meadowlands when Josh Norman and Odell Beckham were jawing at each other. That whole year was a lot of fun.
I see the Seattle game was amazing, amazing. It's the actually the Giants game we met for the first time nationally here in Brazil. We have a national encounter every year, and it was the first time. So it got a good luck for us.
Great.
It was a great game. I see.
Yep. Hey,
Thales,
so
you have a
Joe,
question for
yeah,
you, right?
I know you mentioned that you started in 2010. That was back when we had Jerry Richardson as as the owner, and now we have David Tepper. I lived in Charlotte during the transition time. It was noticeable how much better and how much more modern it was with David Tapper, at least from the outside. Like, what can you tell us about that change in the pass of the guard to David Tapper and his new modus operandi there?
Well, you're very right. Yeah, very correct. They Tepper brought more of a business approach. Richardson was kind of more of the family, old school, traditional. Tepper's a lot more forward thinking, both with football. I mean, he not afraid to spend money. I mean, he paid Matt Rule $63 million. They paid Joe Brady a whole bunch of money to come in. He's got the analytics department that was they were just starting to get into that a little bit with Jerry Richardson. But with Tepper, that went in the fast lane. And, we see it with facilities. They're building the complex and the new headquarters down in Rock Hill. I think it'll just be a few years before they get rolling on a new downtown stadium here in Charlotte. He's going to want taxpayer money, so that one will get interesting. But yeah, he's an interesting guy to cover. I mean, kind of like I said about Cam Newton earlier. Tepper's very colorful. He's very approachable. He's a lot of fun to be around, and it seems to have this franchise going in the right direction.
And let me just speak back on that question. You mentioned Cam, and for most of us here, Cam Newton's one of the reasons why we start supporting the Panthers. He's the reason why the team became popular in Brazil, and a lot of us, we understood, but it was hard to just accept that we had to let Cam go. How did you feel about that when I know that Rule had to get his guys in there, but he's just such a important player in the franchise, and what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, terrific player, iconic player, but he was the type of player. First of all, he was hurt. Like, his shoulder will never be 100% again. He will never throw the way he used to. I think we saw that in New England last year. We saw it the last couple years that he was in Charlotte. But then you have Matt Rule trying to implement his system and build a brand here. And, Cam Newton's just not the kind of guy that he would never accept being a backup quarterback. I know he has said that he would, but if you're trying to go a different direction as a new team, a new owner, a new coach, it's just Cam's too big of a personality to have looking over the shoulder of Teddy Bridgewater or Sam Darnold. And I just don't think it would have been. I thought it was the best move for both sides. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for Cam in New England, and didn't really work out for the Panthers with Teddy. But I thought it was a move that they had to make and cut ties with Cam.
Yeah, it was really hurtful at the time to let Cam go, but it was the right thing to do, I think. Now we can see that, but at the time it was really difficult for us. And I really cheer for Cam. I cheer for him. I hope he finds a way back. I know it's hard. I know he's hurt. I know he can't throw the way he did before, but I'm a big fan until now of Cam. And Joe, talking about those differences between Jerry Richardson and Dave Tepper, what would you say about the main differences between the Rivera era, the Fox era, and now with Matt Rule? What would you say are the biggest differences?
Yeah, it's a great question. Kind of like what I was saying about Tepper. I mean, Rule is just more modern. He's a very forward-thinking guy. Ron Rivera, who was a terrific coach and a good fit here in this community, but he's more traditional, and you guys know that, more conservative, except for that year or two when he started becoming Riverboat Ron. But Rule's smart. He gets it. He knows every position on the field. But before becoming a head coach, he coached offense, he coached defense, he coached special teams. And so he has a really broad background of the game. And I think he's a pretty good people manager. People seem to be very loyal to Matt Rule. He does kind of run the program a little bit. I see some things that's sort of like a college type atmosphere. Like the first year, I'll never forget this. So during COVID last summer, they're doing training camp, kind of like in Charlotte. And they had a scrimmage in the stadium, and the offense did not play very well for the first half. And he has them running sprints at halftime. If you have a young team, that's okay. But there were some veterans on that team, like Bridgewater, Russell Okun, the tackle. And I just remember looking at there and saying, this is like high school or college. You're making these guys run sprints at halftime. But luckily for Rule, he has a young roster that I think doesn't know any better and is okay with some of those tactics.
So Joe, like talking about the coaching staff, Joe Brady is a hot commodity in the next off season, where he may get a head coaching job for another team. So how impactful will be losing Joe and maybe some of the key members in the coaching staff in the second year of a project that have lost a lot of key offensive coaches in the first year?
Yeah, it'd be very big loss to lose Brady, but I think Rule's almost expecting it at this point. He had 5 interviews last year, Joe Brady did. Rule told us recently that he helped kind of Brady prepare for those interviews, so he was being very helpful. He was not trying to hold Joe Brady back or those other coaches you mentioned. A lot of people forget about that. You're right. They had the one guy to go to South Carolina. They had the gentleman go where? Oklahoma. I can't remember them all, but yeah, Joe Brady would be huge. Phil Snow, I don't think they have to worry about anybody hiring him now that he's 65, but he's a great coach too in his own right. Every time I talk to Phil Snow, I learn a little something more about football.
Do you think that Brady is ready for the head coaching job?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's certainly ready to call plays. I mean, we've seen that. Being a head coach is different. Like he's fine talking with us in the media. I mean, he's very friendly, but he doesn't say a whole lot. But, neither does Sean McDermott in Buffalo. So that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get hired, whether he's ready or not. You guys know it. You want to find, all these owners want to find the next Sean McVay. They want to find the young, up-and-coming offensive coordinator. And I think Joe Brady, I'll be surprised if he doesn't get hired this offseason. At worst, next year.
Yeah, and we have Jake Pitts as offensive coordinator in LSU, so I see we can bring him back maybe because he knows the offense, know how to operate. So maybe it's a good choice for us. Or Mark Satterfield at South Carolina, they got experience calling plays, so it's very important. So Joe, for us, see, I asked about the funniest moment, but what was the toughest moment? You witnessed a 2-win team. You witnessed the loss of Ken Newton, the retirement of Luke Kuechly. So we got some tough moments here while covering the Panthers.
I mean, covering the Richardson stuff was hard. I mean, first of all, because I was at the Charlotte Observer at the time, and we did not break that story. Sports Illustrated broke the story, so we were trying to play catch up and, have to try to get our hands around what was a very complicated story, a very emotional story for Panther fans. So that was a tough story to cover. I mean, we still never really heard from Jerry Richardson. He basically went underground after that, and it's interesting. He still has a grandson that works for David Tepper. They have a pro scout named Matt Allen, and that is Jerry's daughter's son. So he's not a Richardson. But I did a story my first year at The Athletic. I did a story about Matt Allen and kind of the weird position he was in as sort of the last Richardson still standing with the Panthers under new ownership. So I don't know. There were a lot of losses in 2010, but the Richardson thing popped to mind to answer your question.
Yeah, the Richardson stuff, it's kind of creepy. It's something very, very weird. So it's kind of a criminal reporter instead of a sport reporter, right?
Well, hey, listen, and the Robert Kraft stuff was creepy too. Like he was doing that massage stuff before Deshaun Watson, and Kraft kind of got a slap on the hand and so forth. But yeah, I think there's more of that kind of stuff that goes on than we would ever realize, unfortunately and sadly. And obviously it hit close to home here with the Panthers.
Yeah, the Washington football team, it's Ryan Vermillion today, so
Yeah,
there's a lot of weird stuff going on under the ground.
Yes.
So Joe, we've talked about 2015. So in terms of the spirit of the players, what do you see as similarities and differences between those days and now?
Well, they're much younger. It's a much younger roster. You remember in 2015, besides Davis and Mario Addison and Charles Johnson and Jonathan Stewart. I kind of forgot they went out then and got Jared Allen after, I guess it was after Charles Johnson got hurt. So they were really going for it. They had an old, experienced backup quarterback with Derek Anderson. This team is so young. From PJ Walker at backup quarterback. I mean, you look at the guys who replaced McCaffrey last week. I mean, Chuba Hubbard's a rookie. They're going to have to replace Shaq Thompson for a couple weeks. They're going to bring a guy up from the practice squad who is in his second year, Kamal Martin. So they're and Matt Rule's fine with it. Like I think if the season gets later on and we get to, October, November, and they're still in the hunt, and I think they will be, then if they have a serious injury, then you might look to bring in a veteran. But it's just such a young team. They're fast, they're aggressive. There's a lot of energy surrounding this team. Like, I think of Brian Burns often. I think he is a really good spokesman and ambassador for this team because he's a wildly terrific, talented athlete. But he also has a great approach. He's very candid. He's very honest. And like yesterday when they lost to Dallas, he said, that stinks. You never want to lose. He said, but I kind of like the way we fought back. He said, I'm going to focus on the positive of that fourth quarter. And he said, that's what I'm going to remember. He said, that game could have gotten ugly. He said, and we didn't let it get ugly. And that kind of attitude, I think, will serve this young team well.
Do you think that Burns had the same, not the same, but like similar charismatic presence of the Cam Newton era? Like,
yes,
Yeah,
that's a great question. I think he does. I think I love talking to Brian Burns. He just has a very natural way of speaking. He says what's on his mind. He doesn't try to sugarcoat things. And then he goes out and plays very hard. I mean, he doesn't take plays off. DJ Moore also on offense. He's another guy like that. Matt Rule was telling a story today. You guys may have heard it, where there was a play in the fourth quarter when Brandon Zielstra had a long reception. And here he says he sees, when you watch the tape, DJ Moore goes sprinting after Zielstra, looking for a block in a game that, they probably weren't going to win. And those are two good leaders with Burns and DJ Moore. And there are other guys too. I mean, Taylor Moton is a quiet type of leader. Shaq is sort of developing into more of a leader. I'm sure I'm forgetting about other people. Christian. But I like Burns, and you're right. He would have been a good fit on that 2015 team.
for sure. Like, I don't know how to say it right, but like the dab with the Spider Burns thing, it seems kind of cool to think about it.
Yeah.
Swag. So he got the swag that sometimes is nice to have in your team. It's cool. It's cool to have those players.
Definitely. He definitely has swag.
So we talked about Brian Burns and DJ Moore and all those players that we know maybe the foundation of this team, this young team, this talented team, we think it's a team that is going places. We can see we have a plan, we have something going on with Matt Rule and Scott Fitter. And Scott is basically the third general manager hired by the Panthers in the recent years. Like, we had Dave Gettleman, then we had Marty Herney, now we have Scott Fitter. So what do you think are the biggest differences between Scott and those two previous general managers that we had in Carolina.
I hate to keep saying this, but it's the same word I used. One of you guys used it. He's modern. You know, Dave Gettleman and Herney were old school, are old school guys. You can be successful that way. Look, I mean, you know, Marty Herney built basically one Super Bowl team, or helped to here, and he and Gettleman kind of both built that 2015 team. So yeah, that works too. But you know, Fitterer has done more trades just in like the last few months, or since he's been here. I think it's up to 11 now. That's more trades than the Panthers have done like the last 3 years combined. I mean, he just has a different way of seeing things. He sees the value of trading up, trading back, stockpiling picks. And they're not afraid, like getting CJ Henderson last week. That's a risk. It may not work out. And they gave up a good player to get him. I mean, Dan Arnold, he caught he was like the Wofford All-Star. He caught 5 passes every day at Wofford and was always the leading receiver. And so that trade might come back to bite them. But my point is, I don't think Marty Herney would have ever even tried to make a trade like that. He would not have taken that chance. And if CJ Henderson hits it big, I mean, look at Darnold. I mean, like, no, not. I don't think many other teams were all that interested in Sam Darnold. But and I know it's only 4 games, but the Panthers thought they saw something in him that the rest of the league didn't see. And so far, it looks right. Now, we can't make that kind of judgment just based on 1 month, but they're okay thinking outside of the box and doing things a little bit differently and not just going with the flow.
Yeah, for sure. Scott said he would be in every deal, and he is in every deal. Like we lost JC on Thursday night, and on Monday we already had CJ Henderson. So we went for it, and I think this is good. The same, we went for it on Sam Darnold also. We went for it when not just the league didn't believe in him, but we also didn't believe this was going to go places. This trade was good. We had many things to say about this trade. And so far, as you said, just 4 weeks, but so far, I think it's way better than I thought would be, the way Darnold's playing. So we may have found a very good deal for him.
And we promise we're almost done. We appreciate you joining us here. Sorry we're dropping so many questions on you. It's just really nice.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
That different vision. But I do have one more question for you. And like when you joined this podcast, we're actually doing a post review of yesterday's game. So since we're here, we kind of wanted to get your opinion on the result yesterday and the overall game. I mean, it was a tough team to play on the road. Dallas Cowboys, great offensive line, Dak Prescott, Zeke. They have the refs on their side. Like it was a tough game. So why don't you give your 2 cents for us on the?
Yeah, so I thought that game was lost up front, both offensively and defensively. You guys know the offensive line. I mean, they chose not to throw a bunch of money at a left tackle. They chose not to take a left tackle in the first round or even the second round. And so Cam Irving is kind of what he is. I mean, he's a journeyman, former first rounder, but I don't think he's terrible. I think he can be okay, but he is going to have moments like yesterday where he has trouble with an elite pass rusher like Randy Gregory, and the rest of the offensive line like that. Listen, they have a lot of salary cap room coming up in the next few years, And so I think they're gonna throw some money at a left tackle. Either go draft one very high or sign one in free agency. I don't know who, but my point is they know they have to improve that line. They can't really do it this year. I mean, they as the year goes on, maybe they'll give somebody like Brady Christensen a chance. But the guys they have out there, those are their best 5 guys right now. And they just have to sort of work with it and make it work. Defensively yesterday, and this is interesting, this is something when the Panthers were doing all their off-season moves with like Frankie Louvu, Hassan Reddick. I had someone from another team tell me that those guys are really good athletes, but they're going to be susceptible to a power running game. The Panthers have a bunch of lean guys on the edge. Even their linebackers. I mean, Jermaine Carter's tiny. Shaq has gotten bigger, but and I remember I asked Phil Snow about that, and he said, "Yeah, there will be." This is back in March or April, or it may have been May, whatever. I just said, Phil, do you think teams will try to beat you with a power running game? And he said, yeah, they will. He said, but the key is you have to be big inside. And he pointed to Jones and Derek Brown. He said, we're big in there, but I don't think they played very well yesterday. And I do think you get worn down on the edges. I mean, I do think you can get the Cowboys lined up with a bunch of 2 tight end sets. They were bringing in like 3rd tackles, like, eligible tackle. And I think those kind of teams this year will give the Panthers trouble defensively.
Yeah, and we got the Vikings in 2 weeks, so I see
Exactly.
Dalvin Cook is coming for us, guys.
You're right. That's coming soon. Now, this week they get a break because the Eagles, they're doing a lot of RPOs with Jalen Hurts. Miles Sanders is more of a shifty back, but that Dalvin Cook, circle that one in 2 weeks. You're right.
Yeah, and the Eagles have some injuries in the offensive line, so I see we can get you Jalen Hurts and he make tough decisions in the pocket. So stay in the pocket, not making runs like Dak did. So maintain he right in the pocket and coming for him. So I see it's a better fit for us than the Cowboys that have some really good players in the O-line.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Christian,
And
did
Joe,
you play this weekend?
I don't think so. I mean, he's going to test his his hamstring on Wednesday. I'd be very surprised. I think they'd be better off being cautious. You can't have last year happen all over again.
yeah, it's something that I'm thinking right now. Another injury is going to blow his mind, and he's a tough ass guy now. So he works a lot. He wants to be on the field, so he maybe overthink this and start a game that he's not ready. So
Yes.
something that I would not like. And Joe, a last question, because it's something that is on our mind right now. I see we got really pissed because we passed Justin Fields. Do you think the Panthers even considering him at the eighth pick?
Didn't sound like it, and I hadn't quite found out exactly why they didn't like him. I just think they felt like if Sam Darnold was in this draft, and he's only 24, at the time he was 23, if he had been in the 2021 draft, would they have taken Darnold or would they have taken Fields? And I think they liked Darnold better. I think that's what it came down to. Darnold and J.C. Horn more so than Justin Fields. That's there again what I was talking about earlier, making some high risk decisions taking the quarterback there would have been the easy decision, right? Like you couldn't, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out, but at least you went and got your quarterback. And that will be, if Justin Fields becomes an all-pro and takes the Bears to the Super Bowl and Darnold ends up kind of, being a flash in the pan, history will not be kind to Matt Rule and Scott Fitterer on the Justin Fields decision.
Yeah, it's a quarterback is a tough decision always. And I know I love Justin Fields coming out of college. I see, for me it's a great quarterback, but we draft JC and the decision is paying off right now, so I can relate to the decision. Joe, I see. For us, was those questions. Thank you so much for the accepting the invite. For us, it's a pleasure to have you, your experience covering the Panthers, our histories. I always read your reports. See, for me, it's a huge pleasure to be with you.
Well, thank you. And thank you, all four of you guys, for speaking English tonight. The podcast went a lot more smoothly. Your English is, you guys all have terrific English, and you're very knowledgeable about the Panthers. It's very obvious to see that you guys are fans, but you're smart fans too, and you know what you're talking about. And your listeners you're doing such a service to your listeners and fans in Brazil. I hear from Panther fans in Spain, because my daughter right now is in Spain for study abroad. She's in college. And so I've connected online with Twitter with the Panthers from Spain. And now I'm love to have made this connection to Panthers Brazil.
And I see you got a home in Brazil if you want to be here. Rio de Janeiro is
Yes.
very good.
That would be great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for your
Have
time.
a good night.
For
You
you too as
too.
well.
Thank you, sir.